Art is what you make it. It's not necessarily just fine art. It's just whatever captures your interest and makes you think about something. It's more than just what you see. It's like what you feel. My name is Dominique Garcia, and I've been an artist of Sacramento for about 4 or 5 years. Well, my preferred medias are probably like oil pastels and acrylics. I like to work on kind of weird canvases, not necessarily just sticking to paper. Like I work on shoes and I work on like clothing. Well, I've always been kind of artsy. I was always that weird kid that like stayed inside and like made stories and like I drew notebooks almost like in a comic style. Like I would spend hours just drawing, so I've kind of always been into it. And then starting 8th grade, I got into art because it just seemed really cool and all my friends were doing it. So like I did it and I really started to like it, and I started to grow as I went through high school. Just nature is probably really inspiring to me, and dance is really inspiring to me. Just seeing all those movements, I just want to capture everything. Being able to be featured in the Youth Artists Month in the Crocker Art Museum, I thought that was really cool. And probably being able to participate in the Vans Custom Culture Competition, that's really cool too. So my shoes, I was really nervous starting this project. Some of the artists that I was, not competing with, but working with, were our top artists in the class that I was in. And I was really nervous having to work next to them and just seeing what their styles were, and they were completely different from mine. I went for a more traditional look, especially on the agriculture one. And so it was really nerve-wracking, but at the end, I really enjoyed how they looked. I definitely spent a lot of time on it, but I look back and it's totally worth it. I want to be able to start a clothing brand with a couple of my other friends that are really into art too. I think that's something that would be really cool and unique, like just seeing my stuff on other people. I think that's really cool. I want to work with maybe animation like Pixar, Disney, and so like I want to go to the AU in San Francisco one day. They have a really great program and most people do get hired there, so that's where I'm shooting for. Probably having to like compete with other people. There's just so many different types of art and so many different artists, and they're all at different skill levels, and having to make myself stand out and be different from these other artists is probably the hardest thing, and being able to get recognition. Most people just look at other artists from who they know and who most people know, so more like well-known people get more attention, and it's kind of hard to compete with that when you're going against someone who has more like friends and people that know about them, whereas like I'm not saying that I'm like a loner, but it's just like I don't know as many people like that, and so it's just hard being recognized. I want to be able to impact people with my art by showing them that they don't necessarily need to be this rich person buying all these fancy materials. Probably one of my best pieces that I've done was on cardboard. And so I want to be able to show people that it doesn't matter where you come from or how much you have, you don't necessarily need all this fancy stuff to do all these cool things. So it's probably one of the things I want to do, like not just show people that they don't have to limit themselves. 2 things, one positive and one negative. A negative just being that before I really started getting better at what I was doing, there was one comment that said that I wasn't going to be able to be as good as some of the other kids, and that it's just kind of dumb trying to pursue it. And so I wanted to prove them wrong, and so I'm pursuing it no matter what it takes. And another a positive comment would probably be from my teacher. She told me that I'm one of her favorite students because not only do I try my hardest, but like I also want to motivate more people, and so that's kind of something that stuck with me too. So it's kind of like 2 different perspectives, and they're both like helping me go forward. Keep going no matter where you are as an artist. Everyone can always have room for improvement. Don't let some other artist intimidate you by what they can do, and just keep going forward. You'll learn along the way. Everyone gets better. So the first piece that I'm showing is of my 2 dancers. This is one of the pieces that I created last year. At first, it started off as a piece that just looked horrible to me, and it was really bad with my self-esteem. I didn't feel like it was any good. But then later on, I looked at it and I was like, I'm not going to just let this sit here and just make me feel bad, so like I went in and I worked on it. As you can see on the left, it's like a warm color scheme, and on the right, it's a cool color scheme. This ended up being probably one of my favorite pieces by the end of last year, and so I'm pretty happy with it. I'm glad it didn't let me just sit there and just dwell on like how bad it could have been, because there's always room for improvement, and so I'm glad I improved on it. So this peacock one is one that I just recently started on. I started on it a few weeks ago. I wanted to experiment with something more out of my comfort zone. So instead of necessarily just going in with a paintbrush, the peacock is made out of brush strokes, but in the background it's all finger paint. And so that's something that I never really messed with. And so I wanted to get that feeling. I love the feeling of paint. So I was just like, let me just do this. And so I'm trying to go for a more graphic look. It's not something I'm used to, but I want to try it out.